Kitco Mining special coverage of the Mines and Money Miami is brought to you by Snowline Gold.
Permanent settlements on the moon are being planned and mining has a part to play. I'm with Robert P. Mueller. He is senior technologist with NASA. Robert, welcome to Kitco.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Let's talk about the Artemis program first. What is it and why is it important?
Artemis program is the next big program that NASA is embarking on after the International Space Station. It's a natural follow-on to Apollo, and it's taking humans in 2024, 2025 will land the next man and the first woman on the moon in order to start a permanent, sustained presence.
Why is mining an important part of making a sustained presence?
Well, mining is important because last time we went to the moon, it was not sustainable. It was a few missions, we stayed for a few days, but we had to bring everything with us. The logistics of going to the moon, they are just not sustainable. We have to use the resources that are on the moon. We call that in situ resource utilization. Layman's terms is living off the land. So we have all the things we need in space to survive, but we have to mine them, extract the resources, and then turn the resources into something useful. But we have lots of energy and we have lots of resources in space.
We'll get to the technical challenges in a minute, but Robert, maybe you could talk first about what type of living off the land that you can do. What would you find in the moon? What would be usable there?
So I have a trick question for you. You're on the moon and you've run out of breathing air. What's the first thing you need to do?
I need to get back to Earth, I would probably say.
No, the first thing you need to do is dig.
Okay.
And dig up the regolith, which is the crushed rock on the surface of the moon, extract 42% oxygen, which is in the silicates, and now you're going to survive. So actually digging on the moon is a key to survival. So by digging on the moon, you get oxygen. The byproduct of extracting the oxygen are metals, aluminum, calcium, titanium, iron. These are all abundant. These metals are abundant. We have oxygen. We even have water. About 10 years ago, we discovered there was water ice on the moon, but it's at the poles. It's not at the equator. Apollo went to the equator and found no water. So for 30, 40 years, we've said there's no water on the moon. But suddenly we have discovered water on the moon. That's a game changer. So now we can mine the water ice. It's always frozen. Otherwise, it sublimes. It's always about a meter below the surface of the regolith, so it requires some kind of excavation, some kind of mining operation. And you take that water, split it into hydrogen and oxygen, that's rocket propellant. That rocket propellant allows you to travel anywhere else in the solar system without bringing it from Earth. And when we're on Earth, there's a very deep gravity well, so it takes too much energy to bring it from Earth. If we can mine it on the moon, it opens up the whole solar system to humanity.
You have a real bent right now. It seems like making the settlement, how would you say, sustainable there with the materials that you can get off of. Have you looked beyond that, though? Are there economic resources there or something that would be of interest?
We can't imagine what will happen in terms of economic value. It's something that will evolve. If we had a futures market for resources on the moon right now, what would that futures market tell us? So then you have to put in the massless exploration where we're beaming energy, where maybe electrons have value, information has value. We don't know yet. But first we have to go there, explore it, understand the resources, be able to survive, and then a lunar economy will evolve. There's some strange things happening. There are even ashes being launched into space, which have economic value for some people. So we can't predict what the products will be. But first we have to have an infrastructure that will allow us to survive. And by the way, most of it will be robots. Humans will not do very well in space. So unless we shield them and give them very good shelters, they won't be able to survive. So most of the work will be done by robots. A human can only go outside of the habitat 2 times a week, and they've met their radiation dosage limit. So it will be a cooperative effort between humans and robots in space.
Talk about then the constraints or the technical challenges right now for getting some of these minerals out and then making it sustainable.
Well, first, you have to find the resources, just like any mining operation. There has to be some prospecting going on. Luckily, we have orbiting satellites going around the moon with remote sensing instruments, things like neutron spectrometers and other instruments that have mapped the geology of the moon quite well. So we do know what the resources are and where they are on the moon, and we understand the geology of the moon fairly well. We still have plenty to learn, but we do understand the geology. We also have the samples that the Apollo astronauts brought back to Earth, and those have been extensively studied. So we have a good head start on what the resources on the moon are. Now, remember that the moon is just the first mission in a campaign, and the campaign will take us to Mars and eventually the asteroid belt. And for me, the asteroid belt is where we should really aim for in the future. This is like the industrial park of the solar system. It has plenty of resources in these asteroids, and they're easily accessible, and there's no gravity well. So the delta velocity, the energy required to go from Earth to the asteroid belt, is actually relatively low. The time involved is longer, but the energy to get there is relatively low. So a lot of the resources are in the asteroid belt. If we can build a human presence on the moon, learn how to live in space, and then move off with robotics into the asteroid belt, we can create a lot of value in space through resources.
What is the overlap and where is the divergence with being able to mine and process minerals in space? I mean, we do this on Earth, and then, it's still very much a manual process. We're still just introducing robotics. You're depending a lot on gravity that you would have there. Obviously, a lot of these processes involve a lot of water that I have. So, roughly how much of this are you going to be able to borrow from what we've done? And also this is how much are you going to have to reinvent, Robert?
We have to reimagine mining.
Yeah.
So it's functionally, it's the same functions. You have to find the resources. You have to acquire the resources. You have to process the resources. You have to transform the resources into something useful. You have to manufacture things out of them. You have to have a life cycle on those products. So functionally, it's the same. But the details are very, very different, because the materials that we deal with, crushed rock. On Earth, we have organics. On the moon, there are no organics. There's no water, liquid water. So most processes on Earth in mining, or many of them, rely on liquid water for beneficiation or any other kind of processing. But on the moon, we have no water. But we have other things. We have electrostatics, we have low gravity, we have vacuum, and we have thermal swings. So we can take advantage of the environment, but we have to completely reimagine mining. And also on Earth, we have diesel engines, and that's not going to happen on the moon. We won't have diesel engines. We'll be fully electrified. And we have to reinvent all the machinery, and it will be maybe swarming technology. So we have massive redundancy. So this is going to be very different from terrestrial mining. However, the trends are the same. The hydrogen economy, the electrification, the advanced computing, AI, telerobotics, and autonomy. These are all technology trends that are well aligned with terrestrial mining. So if we can take the technology from space and apply it to terrestrial mining, I think that's where the common element is between space mining and terrestrial mining.
Lastly, Robert, looking out over the next couple of years, what do you think are going to be the most significant milestones in terms of getting to that leap into space?
First of all, we need economical transportation. We need to get off this planet. And we have several large rockets that can do that. NASA has the Artemis program, and so SpaceX has the Starship. And Blue Origin is also building a large rocket. And the difference between the rockets that were being used before and the new rockets which are being developed by the commercial space industry is reusability. So the old joke is, would you throw away a 747 jumbo jet after you flew it to New York? No, you wouldn't throw a jumbo jet away. You would refuel it. But in the past, we have thrown the equivalent of a jumbo jet away after one space mission because it was considered to be too hard to reuse it. But now the technology is better and we can reuse these spacecraft. So that's going to bring the cost down dramatically by orders of magnitude. When the cost comes down and the reliability goes up, that will give us access to space and suddenly the space economy will be viable because the costs are lower of transportation. When the costs are lower, then suddenly everything else will become feasible.
Robert P. Mueller, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thank you very much.
He's Robert P. Mueller. He is Senior Technologist with NASA. My name is Michael McRae with Kitco Mining here at Mines and Money Miami.
Kitco Mining, special coverage of the Mines and Money Miami, is brought to you by Snowline Gold.